It's my pleasure really to introduce the first case study, and my colleagues from Epant School, Swansea University School Partnership, University of South Wales IT Partnership, and Aberystwyth IT Partnership. We are a formidable team. The presentation will involve the contributors introducing themselves, so you'll get to know who they are and the perspective that they come from. And our focus very much, as John has said, is on living the partnership. What has it meant concretely in the past year, and what adjustments and amendments have we made to our working partnerships? The aim is to give some concrete examples of practice, but also to give a sort of general sense of what our partnership working looks like. But most importantly, we're focusing on two things today. We're focusing on co-construction and the partnership arrangements that secure the way of working that we're so privileged to entertain. Finally, just by way of introduction, our case study is very much focused on the learner. We decided that the learner was the learner in school and also the teacher as learner. So throughout the session, we will be focusing very much on the learning experience. And we really want to start our presentation today for you by focusing on the learner and highlighting why initial teacher education is so important, not just in Wales, but internationally and globally. So I think we can start with a video which will allow us to really focus our attention on why initial teacher education just matters so much.
Hello. Let's not do it. We're done with this. Last Friday we had to dress up as a pirate. And guess what? I had to wear my brother's clothes. Everyone thought I was a boy. Iris, don't laugh now. I like teachers because, yeah, we get to have biscuits and, yeah. Don't say the same, Billy. They give us treats if we get 10 stars. Yeah, you did say the 10-star bit. Yeah, but I don't care, Billy.
What do you think of a teacher as a job?
Hard, tiring. No, harder than having sheep on their farm.
I think you need to be quite clever to be a teacher because you can teach people what people don't know.
Yeah, I think it's quite important because you're kind of like in charge of children's education.
You've got to learn things. If you want to be like a nurse, like me, you have to like focus on science.
If we didn't have teachers, we'd probably all be a bit stupid.
I think you have to be very understanding, nice, but you have control over something. You still have to make sure that the children know they can come to you if they need something.
I like about Miss Watts that when we get stuck on our learning, she helps us by telling us what to do. We did 100 and 100, and Iris knew that one because it was 200. She does dividing and she helps us do the signs because sometimes people get mixed up with it. Yeah, they do it divided.
If I know Mrs. Jackson's teaching, I get really excited. She's really funny and she took us on a school trip to Cadw'r and she wore really silly wellies.
She's one of the best TAs
Yeah.
or student teachers we've ever had.
Yeah.
She's a very funny teacher and she's also quite strict at the same time, which is, I guess, is a good thing. While she's very creative, she sort of makes learning fun.
She's like understanding and if you don't get it, she'll like come over and she'll like help you really well so you get it.
Education is really important because
I think it's the most important thing in life. It'll take you through life and you'll get somewhere.
I think education is really important.
Yeah.
But how are you with that?
Get out.
Okay, so my name is Joseph Cook. I'm assistant head teacher at Epant High School in Pontyclun. I have to say that I've been given a terrible slot. I have to follow angelic primary school children speaking. So I don't know how I'm going to compete with that. But what I'd like to do is to talk to you about I suppose the journey on this partnership and the co-construction with Swansea University, sort of from its inception to where we are now. So we were looking at where we found ourselves. And I think firstly and crucially, Pan School have always been heavily invested in the development of student teachers. Alongside myself, the current head teacher, Mrs. Beth, we were student teachers at Pant. We recognised the importance of developing the next generation of practitioners, particularly at the educational crossroads we now find ourselves at. Now, Pant, as both a professional learning and curriculum pioneer school, we believe we have a relatively firm understanding of how education in Wales is changing. Indeed, many leadership conversations that we've had within the school have centred around, I suppose, the fundamental question of what will the next generation of teachers look like? Were they being trained correctly to meet the needs and demands of the educational changes? Or will we continue to exist often incongruously with HEIs in terms of teacher development? It's often existed in our experience, not always bad, certainly, but it's kind of two separate silos. So I suppose the main driver or the main driving idea is, are we all on the same page? Are we all clear about what is needed? So those concerns, as you can see, were part of our conversations. And also, and this isn't exclusively at all, because I know Cardiff Met are here on this presentation also, and we've worked really, really well with Cardiff Met over the years. So this isn't an exclusive, all-sweeping comment, but we felt for a number of years that the quality of student teachers have been relatively underwhelming. And I suppose we keep going back to that fundamental question: were we putting the right people in front of our learners? And were we supporting the next generation of educators? Can I go on the next slide, please? So how did it start? Well, with many things, you know, we saw an advert, and like many examples, an email came our way. And what we noticed in this was a new opportunity to actually use our understanding of the educational landscape and be involved from the start. We invested quite heavily in terms of commitment, with regularly releasing senior staff to co-construct the course with Swansea University. In fact, this commitment to the partnership was evidenced in the fact that both myself and the head teacher, Mrs. Beth, we were involved in the accreditation presentations. So really from the inception of this new approach, I suppose, as a school, we've been heavily involved, and we don't feel like we have, at any point, we have been the lesser sibling in all of this. Again, at no point during the course and the development of the course did we feel that we were being told what to do or what to say. Our input and influence was recognised, and the parity that we shared with Swansea University was markedly different to anything we have done with HEIs previously. In fact, and I speak personally, and I can probably speak on behalf of Mrs. Cheetham as well, the partnership has gone a considerable way to demystifying the often unrelatable world of university life. And I think that's been a real boon, a real positive point in what we were trying to achieve, and I think to a large degree what we have achieved. Next slide, please. So in terms of that reflection and looking at what's different, we start off with ownership and pride, and what I would say about this partnership, it mirrors life. You know, the more you are physically and emotionally involved in something, the more likely you are to protect and develop it, and that certainly rings true with our experiences. There's been relatively little amount of discord that's occurred in the development of this programme, and I think that comes down to a unified vision. We've had lengthy productive discussions, rigorous debates, in order to enable this unified vision. And I think what that has engendered and what that has I suppose promoted is an intelligent approach to education. Now we as a school have promoted this, pushed the importance of research informed practice for a number of years in our setting at a PANT, and I suppose the partnership has really emboldened us, has strengthened our approach and our position in this regard. And actually already we've had conversations about how we can develop CPD in a broader sense, kind of beyond the ITE provision, how we can develop our relationship with Swansea University, with existing members of staff. We've mentioned here about on the slide, the strategic board, governance, shaping directions, protocols and practice. And I guess that the main point that I would like to get across is we are now sitting around the table. We have a say in the protocols. We have an impact on how this course works, and that's really, really unique. And it's extremely edifying. As I say, the fact that you are involved from the get-go, from day one, really instills that sense of warmth and consideration, I suppose, to what we're trying to achieve at the final outcome. And also finally on there, again, this is something that we haven't been involved with previously, are the partnership interviews, where we are being involved in the selection process. And I think this has been an invaluable opportunity. It's been an invaluable opportunity for myself, whose main responsibility in the school is teaching and learning, but also, ITE provision. And I think that being involved in those interviews and those discussions based on really important decisions that the university would previously make alone, again, has really strengthened that process. And I think the upshot is, certainly from a PANT's point of view, we've had two fantastic student teachers that have joined us in placement 1. So already, I suppose, we're starting to see the movement through those quality assurance procedures. So just to finish on that, the partnership element is clear via the input and the influence. So again, we're tracking what has worked well. And to go back to the point that I made on the previous slide, I do feel in the experience that we have had, that we are selecting the right quality of student teachers. They are well qualified. What has struck me particularly, and this has been evidenced in conversations that I've had with mentors and classroom teachers, is the professionalism of the student teachers, which really chimes with a discord in my previous slide, meaning that we've sometimes been overwhelmed. The student teachers that we've had sometimes don't realise how incredible this career is, but also how demanding it is. So again, we've been definitely impressed with that. And again, there's been an intelligent approach to education, the research informed practice, and having those conversations about kind of practice and theory has fed into the PAT days. Now the PAT days are practice and theory days, and Helen Lewis is going to talk about how those PAT days look in the future slides, so I'll leave that to her. But again, to go back to what has worked well, this idea of the strengthening of links between the HEI and the school, which was often underdeveloped, and the genuine partnership is emerging. And obviously, any platform to share expertise and develop our networks is something that we should embrace. Next slide, please. So where are we now? The challenges presented over the previous years and ongoing have been significant. We've had to develop and modify approaches, and decisions have been made following lengthy partnership meetings. The partnership remains strong, despite the remote nature of the meetings, and at every step we feel that this is a genuine partnership. And I'd like to finish by, because we were involved in that accreditation presentation, and I think it's important to end my presentation on this, on my part of the slide on this. All of the approaches and philosophies that we promoted in those accreditation meetings remain in place. They weren't tokenistic promises made to schools to curry favour, for something more meaningful and necessary. They were promises initially that were made to develop a partnership based on co-construction, and they continue to underpin what we are trying to achieve. And I think that is a very brief overview of where we are, and it's been a really positive and kind of affirming process.
Thanks, Helen, and thanks, Joseph. I mean, essentially, the partnership is only as good as the relationship with our schools, and our schools are brilliant. And you just heard from a school that we're really privileged to work with. And I just want to acknowledge Beth Cheetham, who can't be here today, but she has put in much of the heavy lifting to this presentation today. I mean, I want to, if you can just move on to the next slide, I just wanted to say a little bit about the research-informed nature of the partnership that Joseph has talked about, because partnership is easy to say, but hard to do. And when we talk about a research-informed reflective practitioner, that's rather a mouthful, but what does that actually mean in practice? And particularly, what does it mean to be research-informed during a pandemic? And I think one of the things that we've been able to do, and I'm sure other partnerships have done the same thing, is we've been able to be flexible. And working with our schools, we've ensured that students haven't had anything less than the best experience in terms of their research-informed part of the course. We get students involved in research. We've got a centre for research into practice, and students are involved in the work of that. It's in its infancy, but we see it as a critical part of the partnership going forward. I mean, one of the things I guess it's important to say is the nature of students' research and their research projects, their inquiry work, has had to change fundamentally in the past year. And we've had to be very flexible. And I think our schools have been enormously responsive to the needs of our students to keep them on track. And I think all the partnerships have done a fantastic job of simply keeping our IT students on track in what have been the most difficult of circumstances. But we've done it, and we're proud that we've done it. And we're still, as Joseph said, very proud of our research-informed reflective practitioner strapline that not just defines the partnership, but really does consolidate it. Next slide, please. I just want to touch upon one thing that I think is fairly unique to this partnership and is very important when we talk about research informed. We've got university subject experts we call academic advisors, who are currently the leading people in their field of chemistry, physics, etc. Now, we've managed to engage them in the work, in the research work that students are doing, and also to engage them in the work that the partnership schools are doing. So we're trying to walk the talk insofar as we've got the best researchers in their fields working with our schools, working with our students to ensure that they are really research informed and at the critical edge of the knowledge base around this subject. So that's one thing I just wanted to reinforce. And I now hand over to Helen, who will give a little bit more detail on some of the working parts of this magnificent partnership.
Thank you. I'm just going to move on to give you a concrete example. My name is Dr. Helen Lewis, and I'm the Programme Director for the PGCE at Swansea. And I think Joseph and Alma have illustrated some of the kind of principles that we work to. This slide just demonstrates some of our management and how everything that we do operates within that sense of being together and talking things through. But if we move on to the next slide, Lisa, thank you. I'm going to talk to you about how we live our partnership in designing a particular aspect of the programme content. And I'm going to focus on something called practice and theory days. I know that across IT providers, we'll all have been looking at ways where we integrate and blend theory and practice. We want to make it coherent. We want to make it integrated. We don't want to have a divide between what you do in university and what you do in school. So as a partnership, our approach to addressing that was to develop a series of days that we call the PAT days. So every aspect of those days was developed in partnership. So the process started with discussions between the university and the school about what would be appropriate themes. What did we feel student teachers needed to understand? What were the big areas of research when we're looking at the development of curriculum for Wales, when we're looking at what our partnership schools need? Joseph's already mentioned how, you know, he has particular needs for the student teachers coming into his context. And what do we as HEI providers know that our students need to learn and understand to prepare them for the job ahead? So even at the very initial stages of deciding what we would be covering, that was done in discussion. And we understood as a partnership that the purpose of these days was really clear. We wanted to offer opportunity for professional dialogue between all partners, so between the university and the school, between peers, so between the student teachers themselves, and between other members of staff within the school beyond mentors. We also wanted to make sure that those days had opportunity for reflection on experiences, and that those days allowed student teachers to explore those aspects of the practical elements of classroom practice alongside that research. And we wanted to make sure that we were supporting those teachers to make informed decisions about their practice. So that was the purpose that we were aiming for in our original discussions. And then we had a very clear partnership approach to the design of those days. So we had a design drive team for each PAT day, where we had nominated experts from within the schools coming to meet academic advisors from the university and the ITE tutors. So for example, the PAT design team for the Additional Learning Needs Day included additional learning needs coordinators from across the partnership. It included research experts from within the department, and it included some of the ITE team themselves. So we would come together and during the initial days, we'd look at policy, we'd look at research, we'd look at existing practice within the schools, and we would come up with a series of activities and reading and tasks that we felt would be important during that day to help that theory practice blend really come together. We established pre-tasks, so things that would happen within the school in advance of the day, the activities for the day, handbooks, materials, PowerPoints, everything that we needed, and some follow-up tasks to encourage the student teachers to reflect on what they'd done. And also we talked with the schools, and we talked about how those opportunities would feed into assessments back in the university. So again, that connection between what's going on in all aspects of the provision. The delivery was done in a partnership approach as well. So the calendar, when these days would happen, was decided by the ITE leads in a partnership forum. We discussed when each day would fit in best and how it would connect with what was being taught in the university and the expectations on placements. That was all decided jointly. The days were hosted in network schools. So all of the students in that network would come in and experience the day together. There was opportunities then for cross-network sharing of ideas and understanding. There was an open invitation in those days for other members of staff to come in as they wanted to. So for example, in a school where there might be some NQTs, the offer was there for them to come in and listen to the day and participate, so that that opportunity for learning across the partnership was extended. And we also made sure that a member of the ITE team, that network's lead, also attended the day and contributed so that the delivery was connected as well. Obviously, this year we've had to be a little bit flexible in the way that that's happened. So that's happened in an online environment, but it's still gone ahead. And if we could move on to the next slide, Lisa, please, that would be brilliant. I think one of the things to come out of this, we're all looking at ways to make the connections between theory and practice. What we wanted to also do was continually reflect on the affordances and the opportunities that this approach has given us. And I think, you know, speaking personally, that opportunity to share and discuss and have time to reflect has actually really enhanced what I do in my day job, because I've been listening to what the teachers would say and what's been useful. And, you know, we've learned in that sense. But we did notice that there was a potential limitation. This idea of working closely in a network, we just thought, well, we're missing an opportunity to share more broadly across the partnership as a whole. So we've looked at different methods of making that communication go from between networks to across the whole partnership. We have a good news newsletter at the end of each placement, where there are opportunities to share good practice. Alma's already mentioned the establishment of the Centre for Research into Practice, which will be another opportunity to share. And also we are encouraging our student teachers then to talk across the schools when they go back into school on their next placement. The opportunities to discuss the things that they've learned and to share those are in place as well. So we know we need to keep reviewing the organisation of this. But from evaluation this year and from feedback from all of our stakeholders, this has been an effective way to help our students see how theory and practice complement one another and how they're both really important in their development, to be the best research-informed reflective practitioners that they can be. So I'm going to hand over now to colleagues in Aberystwyth who are going to explore how they're living their partnership as well. So thanks, Alwyn.
Diolch Helen, diolch yn fawr iawn a diolch I chi am y gwahoddiad I ddod I siarad gyda chi'r bore yma. Fy enw I yw Alwyn Ward a fi yw cyfarwyddwr Partneriaeth Addysg Gychwynnol Athrawon yn Aberystwyth. Fe fydd Gareth Evans, sef diprwy yn Ysgol Bro Teifi, un o'n ysgolion partneri, a minne yn ystod yr ychydig funudau nesaf yma, yn egluro sut dyn ni wedi mynd ati I gydgreu a sut rydym yn parhau I gydgreu a llywodraethu ein rhaglen addysg gychwynnol ar gyfer athrawon. Felly, mwyn creu cynllun hyblyg effeithiol sy'n ateb gofynion lleol a chenedlaethol, fe gyd gynllunwyd y rhaglen o'r cychwyn cyntaf gyda'n ysgolion arweiniol a'r adran addysg leol. Erbyn heddiw, mae'r partneriaeth wedi datblygu ac wedi esblygu. Mae gennym ysgolion arweiniol yng Ngogledd Powys, sef Ysgol Uwchradd y Trallwng, ac yn ne Powys, Ysgol Uwchradd Crug Hywel. Yng Ngogledd Ceredigion, mae ysgolion arweiniol Ysgol Plas Crug ac Ysgol Gymraeg Aberystwyth. Tra ne Ceredigion, mae Ysgol Bro Teifi. Ac ers dechrau'r flwyddyn academaidd yma, mae Ysgol Bro Gwaun hefyd wedi ymuno fel ysgol arweiniol yng Ngogledd Sir Benfro. Dim yn cydweithio gyda'r ysgolion arweiniol yma, yn cydweithio gyda nhw mae'r adran addysg Ceredigion. Felly, mae'n partneriaeth yn cydweithio gyda ysgolion partner ar hyd gorllewin a chanolbarth Cymru. Mae'r partneriaeth yn ymateb I anghenion hyfforddi ar gyfer ysgol yr ardal gyfan. Yn ysgolion Cymraeg, rei dwyieithog, rei Saesneg. Yn ysgolion cynradd dau athro, ysgolion uwchradd ac ysgolion tair I 4 a 15. Mae'n cynllun ni'n cynnwys profiad addysgu mewn priffaith ac addysgu mewn cyfnod cyfoethogi. Mae hyn yn golygu fod yr athrawon dan hyfforddiant cynradd enghraifft yn treulio cyfnod yn addysgu mewn ysgol uwchradd. Ac yn yr un modd, mae myfyrwyr ysgol uwchradd ni yn treulio cyfnod yn addysgu yn yr ysgol gynradd. Yr amrywiaeth yma o ysgolion a profiadau yn ein ardal ni, mae un nod yn bendant ac yn eglur, sef hyn. Ein nod fel partneriaeth yw datblygu athrawon yfory I fod yn arweinwyr rhagorol, arloesol a chreadigol mwyn sicrhau llwyddiant a lles pob plentyn a pherson ifanc yn y dyfodol. Felly, hoffwn I gyflwyno Gareth Evans o Ysgol Bro Teifi I siarad ychydig yn fwy am y partneriaeth. Sleid nesaf ysgolch yna, Lisa.
Diolch yn fawr Alwyn. Fe enw yw Gareth Evans, dwi'n ddirprwy bennaeth yn Ysgol Bro Teifi, Ysgol 39, gyda Lloyd wedi leoli tu allan I dref Llandysul yng Ngheredigion. Fel oedd Alwyn yn sôn, ers dyddiau cynnar y partneriaeth yma, mae equity o ran perchnogaeth o'r rhaglen wedi bod yn greiddiol i'n gweledigaeth ni. Pan gyflwynwyd egin syniad o sefydlu partneriaeth mwyn ymateb i'r cais am ychredu rhaglenni newydd yn ôl yn 2017, roedd cynnwys ysgolion, adran addysg y cyngor sir lleol ac ysgol addysg y brifysgol yn rhan hafal o'r bartneriaeth yn allweddol bwysig o'r cychwyn. Mae hyn yn sicrhau nad llif un ffordd o wybodaeth sydd yn gyrru ar rhaglen, ond yn hytrach trafodaethau dilys rhwng yr holl rhanddeiliad sydd yn sicrhau effeithiolrwydd ac effeithlonrwydd gwaith y bartneriaeth. Wrth lunio'r rhaglen gyffroes ac arloesol hwn, roedd llais y partneriaid o fewn y broses yn glir i'w clywed. Roedd hyn i'w weld yn y ffordd cafodd y rhaglen ei chyd-greu gyda ffocws ar anghenion lleol a dyfodiad cynyddol ysgolion pob oed. Mae'r cyd-greu yn parhau yn ffactor bwysig, gyda mewnbwn ysgolion yn gynyddol bwysig wrth ystyried gofynion y cwricwlwm wrth i ni droi at y cwricwlwm newydd a'r datblygiadau o ran addysgeg ac asesu sy'n gysylltiedig â hynny. Mae'r ysgolion partner arweiniol, cynrychiolwyr llais myfyrwyr a chynrychiolwyr yr awdurdod lleol yn rhan weithredol o'n grwpiau rheoli a llywodraethu, sydd yn arwain at bartneriaeth dynamic, ymatebol ac sydd wir yn gwneud y bartneriaeth yn un ddilys, dwfn a chynhwysol. A mae Alwyn yn rhoi chydig bach mwy o gefndir y tu ôl i hynny. Sleid nesaf, plîs.
Diolch i ti, Gareth. Nawr te, dwi'n mynd i sôn ychydig nawr am sut aethon ni ati, fel mae Gareth newydd sôn, am y cyd-adeiladu a sut da ni'n llywodraethu a pwy sy'n cymryd rhan yn yr elfennau yna. Mae gan y bartneriaeth ei strwythur rheoli ac arwain cadarn sydd yn cefnogi ac yn herio'r bartneriaeth. A nod y strwythur yma yw sicrhau bod yn parhau i ymateb i heriau a blaenoriaethau lleol a chenedlaethol. Felly, wrth ystyried y rôl yma, cwestiwn sylfaenol i'w ofyn ar gychwyn pob cyfarfod sydd yn gwerthuso, herio a chynllunio yw a dim yn hyfforddi'r athrawon sydd ei angen ar ein disgyblion ac ar ein ysgolion. A yw'r athrawon yma'n greadigol, yn rhai sydd yn ymholi ac yn rhai sy'n adnabod anghenion eu dosbarthiadau. Mae'n cyfarfod sicrhau ansawdd sydd yn cynnwys cynrychiolaeth o'r ysgolion arweiniol a aelodau'r ysgol addysg Prifysgol Aberystwyth yn dilyn amserlen gaeth sydd yn monitro holl elfennau'r cwrs sydd yn cynnwys lles myfyrwyr, aseiniadau ac effeithiolrwydd y bartneriaeth. Mae'r ysgolion arweiniol, y tiwtoriaid y cwrs ac aelodau adran addysg y brifysgol yn cwrdd yn rheolaidd fel pwyllgor arweiniol mwyn mesur llwyddiant y rhaglen. Rydyn hefyd yn nodi'r newidiadau a datblygu'r rhaglen addysgu yn ôl anghenion lleol a chenedlaethol ac mewn ymateb i anghenion yr ysgolion. Yn dilyn herio ac adnabod meysydd i ddatblygu, rydym yn cyflwyno'r addasiadau yma a rhaglenni newydd. Yma cawn drafodaeth onest ac agored, sydd yn sicrhau fod y hyfforddiant sy'n cael ei gynnig yn y bartneriaeth yn effeithiol ac yn ateb y gofyn. Mae'r bwrdd strategol yn ymateb i'r cyfarfodydd dwi eisoes wedi trafod ac mae'r bwrdd yma yn cynnwys cynrychiolaeth myfyrwyr, undebau, adran addysg, ysgolion ac adrannau brifysgol. Yma mae holl rhanddeiliad y bartneriaeth yn cael cyfle i fesur effeithiolrwydd ac effeithlonrwydd y cwrs. Cawn gyfle i drafod a chyflwyno syniadau newydd ar gyfer y cwrs, ac yma rydym yn herio ein gilydd. Sleid nesaf, os gwelwch yn dda, Lisa.
Mae'r bartneriaeth yn un sydd yn datblygu yn barhaus. Fel oedd Alwyn yn sôn, rydym yn parhau i recrwtio ysgolion partner newydd ac yn Medi 2020, fe dderbyniwyd ysgol arall mewn i'r bartneriaeth i weithredu fel ysgol arweiniol ac ymateb i'r galw am leoliadau o fewn gogledd a gorllewin Sir Benfro. Mae'n partneriaeth yn gynyddol adeiladu ar gapasiti ymchwil, gyda ysgolion partner yn manteisio'r gyfleoedd hyfforddi gan adran addysg y brifysgol, a myfyrwyr y brifysgol yn manteisio'r fynediad i ymchwil ar lawr dosbarth o fewn ysgolion partner. I ni fel ysgol, enghraifft, wedi ymwneud gyda cyfarwyddwr ymchwil yr Ysgol Addysg yn Aberystwyth, a mae hi wedi cynnal hyfforddiant ar ddatblygu athrawon fel ymchwilwyr sydd wedi arfogi i ymgymryd ag ymchwil pwrpasol ar y ddysgeg wrth i ni fel ysgol i baratoi at y cwricwlwm newydd. Heb os, yn y 12 mis diwetha, mae Covid-19 wedi rhoi esiampl goncrid i ni o effeithiolrwydd y bartneriaeth, a pha mor rhagweithiol rydym yn gallu bod wrth ddelio gyda sefyllfa newidol iawn. Mae'r llif o wybodaeth nôl ac ymlaen drwy sianeli llai ffurfiol o fewn y bartneriaeth wedi sicrhau yn bod yn medru ymateb yn gyflym i newidiadau a fyrybydd, sydd yn golygu fod yr holl rhanddeiliad y bartneriaeth yn deall gofynion newydd o ran lleoli myfyrwyr, asesiadau risg ac yn y blaen. Roedd modd hefyd i'w diwtoriaid a mentoriaid y bartneriaeth i elwa o hyfforddiant ac arbenigedd staff Cyngor Sir Ceredigion a'r ysgolion partner wrth baratoi at symud y dysgu a'r mentora i ddulliau ar-lein. Alwyn.
Diolch. Sleid nesaf, sgwlwch yna, Lisa. Diolch yn fawr. Felly, dyma'n sleid ola ni. Ac yn ystyried ble da ni'n mynd nesaf fel partneriaeth. Wel, ar hyn o bryd, da ni'n gwerthuso'r dulliau addysgu dysgu'r brifysgol a yr hyn a ddefnyddwyd yn ystod y cyfnod clo. A dim am fynd yn ôl at y dulliau traddodiadol o gyflwyno darlithoedd y seminarau neu a dim am ddefnyddio datblygu y dulliau newydd a ddefnyddwyd. A dim am barhau hyfforddi'n hythrawon ar gyfer addysgau gyfunol. Sut mae asesu ar-lein? Sut mae cynnal ymrwymiad disgyblion ar-lein? Pa ddilltiorau? Fe fydd sylwadau'n hysgolion a athrawon dan hyfforddiant yn holl bwysig i hyn. Fe fydd darllen gwaith yr athrawon dan hyfforddiant sydd yn cynnwys pethau fel blogiau, portfolios a gwaith ymchwil gweithredol yn ein cynorthwyo i beintio darlun clir ac eglur ac yn gosod y llwybr ar gyfer y dyfodol. Wrth gyd gynllunio yn ofalus, rydym yn paratoi ar gyfer diwygiadau cenedlaethol. Fe fydd cohort 21-22 yn cychwyn ar ei gwaith fel athrawon newydd gymhwyso Medi 2022. Cyfnod cyffroes yma ym myd addysg yng Nghymru. Diwygiadau o ran y cwricwlwm a diwygiadau o ran cefnogaeth i ddisgyblion. Drwy gyd gynllunio'n fwriadus gyda'n partneriaid, gallwn sicrhau fod yr hyfforddiant a'r arweiniad a gynigir yn flaengar, yn finiog ac yn ymateb i anghenion ein ysgolion. Byddwn yn trafod gyda'n ysgolion a'r awdurdod addysg er mwyn gweld sut maen nhw am ddatblygu'r cwricwlwm yn yr ysgolion ac o hyn, pa fath o athrawon o ran medrau a dealltwriaeth sydd angen yn yr ysgolion. I bleisleisio eto, da ni ddim yn system ni a nhw. Dyw bartneriaeth ddim yn ni a nhw, ond yn hytrach mae o'n system o berchnogaeth, cyd-berchnogaeth, cyd-gyfrifoldeb a cyd-greu. Mae'n prosiect mentor newydd unwaith eto yn ein herio i wella, gan ofyn beth yw mentorau effeithiol mewn ysgol 2 athro, mewn ysgol 3-4-5. Mae'r prosiect yma ar y cyd rhwng ysgolion y bartneriaeth a'r brifysgol yn cael ei arwain gan y mentoriad a'i gefnogi gan y brifysgol. Wel, yn fer iawn, dyna chi flas ar yr hyn da ni wedi bod yn gwneud fel partneriaeth yma yn ardal Aberystwyth o ran cyd-greu a llywodraethu. Edrychaf ymlaen nawr i glywed mwy gan Prifysgol De Cymru. So Michaela, Nick and Lisa, I look forward to hearing about your developments at the University of South Wales Partnership.
Yeah, hello, I'm Nicola Rees and I'm a teacher at Risca Primary School near Newport and the QA lead for the Risca Community of Learning within the USW Partnership. Hi.
And I'm Lisa.
Hi,
sorry, go on, Michaela.
Sorry. My name is Michaela Abdullah and I'm a first year student at the University of South Wales and my placement this year has been at Risca Primary School.
Thank you, Michaela, and I'm Lisa Taylor, Director of Initial Teacher Education at the USW IT Partnership. So we're going to start with Nick talking through what our partnership looks like.
Yes, thanks. So from the very beginning, the new ITE programme was a partnership. It was co-constructed with head teachers and the university. We knew what we wanted and we knew what we didn't want. And before we made any decisions, we reflected upon how they would affect the schools, the teachers within the schools, the mentors, the students and the children. And because of that, the joint leadership of the programme has been very real at every stage. We have 5 communities of learning in the partnership, each led by a lead partner school. And those communities of learning become very close very quickly because we are communicating all the time about how best to support our students. Each lead school has a QA lead, a quality assurance lead, that's my role. And so just to make sure then we have each community of learning consists of 6 schools. The team around the student is the mentor, the senior mentor, a QA lead, and on top of that, 2 ITE tutors are linked to each community of learning. We've implemented this new course in a global pandemic, and although it's been challenging, it really has worked. We've used Teams for teaching and communication. Mentor development sessions have taken place online, as have synergy days for the students and community of learning meetings for the mentors and senior mentors. And all of that has been possible because of the commitment from all partners to make our programme a success.
Thank you, Nick. So looking at this slide, one of the things that we wanted to focus on was our mentor development and how we were going to change our approach to mentor training, which we knew needed to change. And much like Swansea talked about their PAT days, we have PDL days. We all have an acronym in education, don't we? We have our PDL days to support mentors and senior mentors to connect and reflect upon the theory and practice of mentoring. So if we look at the first box, we were preparing for change together and exploring the context for change. So in preparation for the accreditation of our new ITE programme, before we went through the accreditation process, we set up a steering group of representatives from schools and the university to explore approaches to mentoring framed by research, literature and policy. We wanted to focus on supporting mentors, to be educative mentors, to ask the questions worth asking, to help them to adopt an inquiry stance with our student teachers and to be lifelong learners who engage with research and evidence to inform their practice. To support them to engage with, discuss and really unpick the research and policy developments and to really engage with effective evidence-based approaches to mentoring, we co-constructed a learning through mentoring module and these PDL days, which is the acronym for Professional Development and Learning Days. So in year 2, we had a pilot year where our QA leads engaged with the level 7 30 credit module, the learning through mentoring module, and they engaged with that as a pilot. The content of each of the 3 professional development and learning days was co-constructed, reflected upon and refined. And there were opportunities that we really wanted to make sure that we provided plenty of opportunities for the participants to integrate their theory and practice and really bring their experience to that, but look at what it meant for them as practitioners and how the evidence underpinned sort of effective practice. The summative assessment was co-designed to ensure that it was authentic while also being academically challenging and rigorous. And then we came to this year, September 2020, this academic year, with the start of our new ITE programme in the midst of a global pandemic. We co-deliver the PDL days and review the co-constructed learning through mentoring module in partnership with mentors and senior mentors online. And that's actually worked quite well, despite sort of some reservations that we had. The first PDL day took place in September before the student teachers commenced their school experience, with days 2 and 3 taking place later in the autumn and the spring term to support us to develop educative mentoring in action. We've brought our learning experience of learning and teaching online and building social learning communities to this using breakout rooms to facilitate active learning and discussion. It's been different, but it has actually been easier in many ways logistically when we think about, improving attendance and travelling and parking and taking all that out of the equation. And some of the feedback we've had we'll look at a little bit later, but it supported the relationship building and everyone shared understanding and commitment to our vision. So very briefly, and this will be touched on much more in session 2 on mentoring, this is sort of some of the reading around educative mentoring. And Nick is now going to talk to the next slide.
Thank you. So I was just going to say that our classrooms are genuinely sites of inquiry. It's here that the students are meshing the theory and practice. The students have their input at university. For example, they may be looking at assessment and delving into AFL strategies. And then they come into school to look at how that looks in our classrooms, and they get to try it out for themselves. And to support that, we have synergy days where the students have engaged with several pieces of research. They generate a key question. Then with their peers, their QA leads and their uni tutors, they talk about that in detail. They really analyse it. And all this while they consider how this can best impact their learners and their practice. Following those discussions, they go back into their classroom straight away to trial these new ideas, to see how the theories that they've read about work in the classroom. And if they don't work, we talk about it a bit more, we evaluate it, and we try something new. And that inquiry and that challenge is absolutely key, as well as that collaboration, because we plan together, we team teach together in schools, and students are immersed in that from the very beginning. And being part of that critical dialogue so soon in their teacher education enables them to begin to form their own teacher identity, which of course is our ultimate goal. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. So some of the reactions from mentors, it's been challenging, it's been extremely positive, as I said, but sometimes it's been a little bit uncomfortable, a bit of professional disruption, challenging the way things were done traditionally and changing our mindsets. So there's some reactions there. I'm not going to spend any longer talking about that because we want to hear from the reactions to this from the student teachers, and Michaela and Nick are going to talk about that.
Thanks very much. I was just going to say that educative mentoring approach has had an impact on both the mentors and the students. So I was going to ask Michaela, quite a nervous Michaela, I know. I was going to ask Michaela to tell you just a little bit about her first year experience. Thanks, Michaela.
Well, when finding out that one of my placement blocks would be taking place during blended learning, I'll be honest, I was really worried because I wasn't sure how that would take place. But luckily, my mentor, Lewis Ryan, went above and beyond to support me in every single way possible. This included daily guidance through video chats to discuss things such as lesson ideas, lesson plans, how to evaluate what standards I had met, and so much more. She ensured that throughout the whole transition, I've been comfortable and confident in not just my ability, but the school's ability to support me as well. And has taken so many extra steps, for example, staying after school and meeting me before school, to help me with any queries I may have had, and has made it very clear there are no such things as silly questions, and that my education is definitely a partnership between her, the QA lead, and the university. Lois knows my capabilities, and she really does push me to improve every single day. She's great at listening to what I've learned in the university and showing me that in the classroom, as currently we're focusing on assessment, and I've had many conversations with Lois on how I can improve my AFL. And she has shown me that in the classroom through things such as peer assessment and little things that the school uses every single day. Lois and I brainstormed extra ideas for assessment and any other things that we've discussed during university, such as differentiation. And this has really, really helped me. She's made this experience an excellent experience, and I don't want to leave to go to a different school. She's made me really understand the reality of teaching and has really encouraged me to work harder to achieve the best that I can. So, thank you.
Well, thanks, Michaela. I'll be passing that on to Lois. She won't be able to get her head out the door, so thanks very much. So, our quality of a critical dialogue is crucial in supporting students to become reflective practitioners. All of our mentors have had that mentoring development, and I know you're going to be talking about that later, so I won't go into that now, but many I've spoken to have reevaluated what mentoring means to them. And I think that's really crucial. As QAs, we did that mentoring we did the mentoring sessions, and it's really changed us, and it's great to see how that's filtered through all of the mentors because some of them are saying in their community of learning now, we're supporting each other, we're challenging each other more than ever before. And that's as a direct result of this partnership that I've got to say we're all very proud to be part of. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Nick, and thank you, Michaela. It was really lovely to hear from a student about your perspective on this, and also a student on school experience at the moment. It was lovely to hear some learners' voices in the background, so thank you. So we're just going to end our partnership presentation with another short video.
Placements are really important for the student teachers because it's where their teaching career starts.
The best part about being a student teacher is the placement experience. It's just great to see everything that you learn in uni and how it can be implemented in the classroom. The support you get from your mentors and your tutors at university is amazing.
We're very privileged to work alongside the passionate students that USW send us. The school and the mentors aim to provide high quality coaching and allow the student teachers to try a variety of pedagogical approaches, which in turn allows them to explore their teacher identity.
We have a long track record of working with the University of South Wales and helping to develop the future of education in Wales. We have staff who've been mentors for a long time. We've been able to help support them and get them to the level they need to be at to go on to the next phase of their learning within education.